So welcome to any and all of you joining us today via live stream or maybe in a subsequent catch-up. I am so very proud to be kicking off this new Bridges e-conference series hosted by the Bundeswehr University of Munich, which has as its mission to bridge both geographical and interdisciplinary gaps. And how fitting that our first topic for this conference should be on the impact of COVID-19, a global problem that requires us to put our heads together across disciplines to find global solutions. Over the next few days, you will hear from speakers from literally around the globe. And I am so grateful for everybody who has put a huge amount of effort into making this possible. We'll go into those thanks in a few minutes. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce to you Professor Karl-Heinz, who I just call Charlie Renner, who would like to welcome you on behalf of our host institution. Charlie, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Merle. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to this scientific online event on the social and psychological consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. At the opening ceremony of a traditional conference, a representative of the host university usually shares some fun facts about the hosting institution or city. But at an online conference, the very idea of a hosting institution becomes fuzzy, however, because there is no physical university building or hall where we all meet. Furthermore, on the website of the Social Bridges conference, we see that this project has the generous support of several universities. I would like, however, to take the opportunity to say a very few words about our university, because Merle, as the main organizer of this conference, has been working here for nearly a year. And I speak for our entire department of psychology when I wholeheartedly say that we are very happy to have Merle as a representative and part of our university. I am proud that you, Merle, as a member of our department, have organized this conference with such energy and passion. So this is Bundeswehr University of Munich. The Bundeswehr are the armed forces of Germany, but unlike West Point in the United States or Sandhurst in Great Britain, our university is not a military academy, but a normal university for the officer candidates in Germany. Merle and I need not wear uniforms and are in fact not allowed to do so. Even our students who are soldiers need not wear uniforms during their 4 years of study if they do not want to. The Bundeswehr University Munich and also the Bundeswehr University in Hamburg, our so-called sister university, were founded in 1974 under the auspices of the former Minister of Defense Helmut Schmidt, who also was Chancellor of Germany between 1974 and 1982. The fact that the officers of the Bundeswehr have to study at a normal university was inspired by the idea that German soldiers should be so-called citizens in uniform, and in the end guided by the principle of inner leadership and core values like freedom and democracy, so that a Third Reich will never ever happen again. Thus, our soldiers are also trained in critical scientific thinking and systematic doubt to prevent slavish obedience. In addition, the scientists at our university are totally free to investigate whatever they want, which also includes the freedom to do research in stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, and coping with adversities. This brings me to the topic of this conference. During the last month, we have all witnessed a unique historical situation that I would call a critical world event, thereby alluding to the term critical life event, that we are all having to cope with. After reading the program, I was deeply impressed by the diversity and richness of the upcoming talks of this online conference that clearly demonstrate the importance of critical thinking and the contributions of science in general and psychology in particular to understand and better cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. I am convinced that we can make this world a better place through our joint efforts. And this conference is a prime example for my conviction. I wish you all a wonderful and inspiring conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charlie. That was wonderful and a wonderful way for us to start thinking in a critical way from this moment onwards. My next thanks has got to go to our organizing committee, who you see in front of you now. And they are really the reason why we are all here, in addition to the very generous support of the University of the Bundeswehr. In no particular order, I'd like to thank Olga Landukova, who has tirelessly worked to create our online presence, both in the form of our flashy website and our Twitter feed, which I hope that you will follow and retweet. Yasmin Abra, who you will not see online, it seems, but who has very quickly become an invaluable member of our team, has set up our YouTube channel. Domna Banaku and Baha Tungchenk, you see them hopefully on your screen now, have helped with programming and ensuring that this process is as smooth and hopefully as enjoyable as possible for you all. You will no doubt see them all again. Yasmin and Olga will be womaning, not manning, our waiting room for speakers, and Baha and Domna will be chairing several of the sessions over the next 3 days. So from me, a very big thank you to you all. Woman power to put this together in such a very short amount of time. Before we start with our official program, I thought it might be useful to walk you through the various aspects of this new conference format as we have conceived it. Some of these things are our first try, and so we welcome and in fact invite your feedback. Be kind, but please also try and be constructive so that we can go forward with this series and keep on improving. We have chosen to live stream the event via YouTube, and you can access the link to this live page from our website, and there you'll find links both to the current day's program, the catch-up links to videos from previous days, starting from this evening, as well as our virtual poster room, where you'll see poster submissions, as I said, from the entire world. These will also be something you can search and find on our dedicated YouTube channel, details of which can also be found on our website. Finally, on that same live page, you'll see a very fancy program for the day, where you can also see where we are in the program for that day. And I have thanks to Olga for manually changing that scroll bar as we go through our program today. In the time we have left before our first speaker, there are a few aspects of our conference that I would also like to make you aware of. And I think that these generally highlight both the advantages, but also potential weaknesses of an online exchange. On the one hand, we are not bound by space and time. And as metaphysical as that might sound, practically it has meant that those speakers who are unable to present because of personal reasons could pre-record. We'll let you know when those are happening, and you can tell us if you can tell the difference. Similarly, our poster room is a virtual poster room with pre-recorded submissions from around the globe, from different time zones, so that we think we truly represent a global perspective on the topic. These will also be available long after these 3 days have passed. So rather than that traditional poster that we print out, painfully carry along with us on planes, trains, and automobiles, that then gets sadly discarded, these videos will be available for any and all who have a link. I also think that it's important to mention that we are showing how we can truly ensure open access. We have no registration fees, no travel costs, no accommodation costs, and hopefully no costs to the planet. A simple YouTube link that any and all can join for as much of the live program as you have time, or indeed to catch up on content later. However, we have to be aware of the pitfalls of this ambitious revolution. And I truly do believe that it is a revolution. We should see this as potentially the way of the future. At the top of that list of weaknesses, shall we say, must be the fact that there must be an extra effort that we all must make to feel present, even though we're physically distant. That we have to somehow actively engage and use the medium to its utmost. Obviously, as an eternal optimist, I believe that this online medium gives us an opportunity to reach out further and wider. And we've decided to ensure that rather than quickly forgetting the incredible research that will be shared over the next 3 days, it is our job, and we will continue to make it our job to make sure there is a record of it and promote it and hopefully facilitate continued discussion. To that end, we are extremely grateful to Frontiers in Psychology, who have offered us a special issue on the topic of the conference, and that this will be bolstered by the fact, as I already mentioned, that all videos where consent has been given will be available for you to watch later on our YouTube channel. But there's also something you can do. This is not just a job for us, but for all of us. A conference is a place to talk and to come together, as the word implies. It must be a place where we can truly engage with one another and feel together. And so we've tried to create some opportunities for this active engagement in the form of, on the one hand, the YouTube chat, which will be alongside your live stream. This will be monitored by the chair of each session during the talks, as well as hopefully by the speaker afterwards, hopefully facilitating further exchange. We've also created an interactive whiteboard where you can put down your thoughts, questions, comments, and you can do so either in a text form or with images or links to papers you think are interesting. However, please note that for this service, if you want to add content, you need to register. To look at what other people have done, you can simply click the link on our Social Bridges site. Lastly, we will be creating workshops at the end of August on the key themes of the conference, and I'll go through those in a few minutes' time. This is one of 2 examples of our so-called staggered program. Again, the metaphysical lack of time, which is typically imposed by a traditional conference, but which we feel is one of the advantages of this medium. We will also take advantage of this staggered program for our elevator pitch competition, which will also take place at the end of August. Further details of the competition can be found on our website. We welcome any and all students to contribute a 3-minute video telling us why their research is important. We also welcome and invite people to take part as our panelists. We hope to create interdisciplinary panels to give feedback to these students so that they can better prepare themselves for the career that awaits them. I must also take this moment to thank our other corporate sponsor, Gorilla.sc, an online experiment platform that I personally use and think is really remarkable in terms of what you can do. They have very generously sponsored the prizes for this competition. We think that this is one of many ways in which we create bridges. We have already spoken about bridging the physical gap, something we feel so acutely today. I believe that we will be bridging interdisciplinary gaps. We have a host of speakers, as I've said, from around the world, but also from disciplines that don't necessarily sit side by side. And in terms of the competition, we are hopefully bridging the gap between early and senior researchers with the hope that we have true transmission of information between the two. Lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about the themes of our conference, which I think you will find extremely interesting, hopefully thought-provoking. And I also hope that you will take the opportunity, as part of the active engagement homework that I'm giving you, to find other themes, to find other bridges across talks and across the 3 days of our program. For example, we have a very rich offering on how we are coping with the current pandemic. We have people telling us about cross-cultural differences, about the different ways in which we cope as a function of our context. We have speakers who will also be telling us about the repercussions of COVID in the form of fear, worry, and stress. Our first talk today will tell us one of the ways in which we can mitigate these impacts by listening to music. We have various people telling us about touch and its importance, even in a time in which we have to be vigilant for the health of ourselves and those of others. But we are a social group, and so we'll hear about the impact of social distancing, how this has an effect on our emotions, how it varies as a function of our relationships. Lastly, we'll be talking a little bit about the collective, how we use social media and typical media to influence behavior, hopefully for the good. But we must always think that there must be some final impact of the work we all do, and that the important work we're doing on this important problem. And so there will be a dedicated session on public policy and people telling us about the things that have worked and the things that perhaps haven't. And hopefully through discussion with you, with people in the know, we can advise future policy for the better. That's all that I had prepared, and it went a lot faster than I expected. So our program will start in about 13 minutes time. I hope that you will all continue to listen and watch with us as we present our first speaker, Tim Leptien from the University of the Bundeswehr. We will be joining him in about 10 minutes time. I thank you for your time, your attention, and I look forward to hearing all of your comments, or rather seeing them on our live chat and on our whiteboard. As ever, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact either socialbridges@unibv.de or myself, or simply put something in the chat. There will be somebody moderating that panel at all times. Thank you, and have a wonderful conference. Obviously, if Baha or Domna or indeed Olga have anything they'd like to say, now is a perfect time for that. Or indeed, Charlie, you're allowed to speak again too.
Melle, it would be wonderful if you could sing something for us.
No. On the amount of sleep that I had, or have not had, I think that would hurt a lot of people's ears. I should have probably prepared a song about bridges. That's what I should have done.
Yeah. Probably
next time. That'll be maybe that'll be the finale of the 3-day program. I'll sing something and ensure that nobody ever watches us ever again. But it has to come at the end. Yeah, I know. So that was a lot quicker than I expected, but I thought I had so much to say. Hopefully that will not happen with my talk. I do probably have too much to say.
I think I was talking exactly 5 minutes, as you told me.
You were perfect as usual, Charlie. As usual.
Yeah.
I think maybe we can just use this time to go and get a cup of tea or coffee before the long
absolutely. Go get coffee and tea. Idea, yeah. Baha, you will be chairing the first session, so you need it most of all. And Domna, are you well?
Fantastic. I think I'll grab my coffee after lunch because I have the afternoon session.
You have to time your caffeine pulses, exactly.
Exactly. No, thank you, Merle. Of course, thank you for being the main person behind organizing all that and giving everybody the opportunity to join from literally everywhere, not just scientists, but anyone.
No, exactly. And I think that will be the benefit. I think it remains to be seen how accessible all the talks are. I very much hope that that will be at the forefront of the speakers' minds, that we really want everybody to be able to understand what's going on, what we know and what we don't know, and hopefully facilitate a lot more interdisciplinary exchange. And I hope that the chairs of the sessions will try and do that as well, that maybe we can try and reformulate things if it wasn't exactly clear. We can do that at the beginning of the sessions for the day tomorrow and on Friday, just to regroup everything. And I think the whiteboard will help. I do. I have faith in the whiteboard.
Shall we maybe repeat how to access the whiteboard?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I can do right now is I have it all open and I can share screens with everybody, and everybody can have a copy of this as part of the live stream.
We can do a hello world on the whiteboard.
Yes, a hello world, exactly. So firstly, we have our main page, and if you click on Join Us Live, you'll see some very easy to use sections. By clicking on Main Conference Room, you'll join the YouTube Live link to see our virtual poster room, which is really looking very lovely indeed, divided by our overall grouping themes: individual behavior, collective behavior, and mental health. And you have access to our lovely whiteboard. Eventually. Where I've tried to give you a summary of the themes as we've seen them, and a few ideas of what you could put down either underneath the day, or I'll allow you to go crazy and be creative in how you link things across. And you'll find our catch-up sessions in the Social Bridges archive, a list of speakers and talks, where you'll see a rundown of our program, with Tim starting in a couple minutes' time, telling us about music in the face of COVID. And then, as I mentioned, a very clever program summary telling us where we're at the moment. And hopefully in about 8 minutes' time, that'll shift down to Tim's talk. So at all times, you'll have an overview of what's to come and where we are now in the live stream. Lastly, in case anybody's interested, the details of the competition can be found here, along with our competition goals, the important dates, the rules, and we've also provided a useful tips page so that people who are interested in creating an elevator pitch style video, here are some good and some not so good examples of what you can do. And obviously some